this is a dynamic region in the sense that when we look at Middle East or West Asia, I think there are two critical countries are there. One is Iran, which is a critical country in terms of not only in terms of its position on many global issues, the way it has taken on critical issues like on nuclear issues and all, and Pakistan, which is a close neighbor of China and India. At the same time, this is also a very dynamic country, not only for its domestic regions, for the changing political fortunes within Pakistan, but also geographically, it is at the crossroad of South Asia and Middle East regions. And today we are going to discuss about their relationship, and particularly given the fact that at the beginning of 2024, what we saw, the relationship between Iran and Pakistan has not been in good order. And there was a missile strike from Iran on Pakistan, and then Pakistan also had to retaliate. And there has been different kind of analysis from both the sides. Where do they stand? And there has been a little tenseful moment. And also, most interestingly, this relationship has also is brewing at a time when there has been tensions between Israel and Hamas, Israel and Palestine, and also when there is a war continuing or undergoing currently between Russia and Ukraine. So in that context, the Iran-Pakistan tensions keeps the Middle Eastern regions on an edge, and I think we need to really discuss those situations in order to understand the politics in the Middle East much better. So in order to discuss that, as Luke has taken the effort to introduce our two excellent speakers, we have a Pakistani expert who is based in London now, Dr. Sania Munir, and then we have an Iranian expert, Dr. Javad Heiran-Nia. He's from Iran, and so unfortunately, I must share with all the participants that our third speaker, who is supposed to be from India, he could not join us. Because there has been a untimely demise in his family this morning, just few hours ago, and he had to attend some emergency family situation and some ritual. So unfortunately, we don't have an Indian analyst who could share his views from a third country point of view. But again, I think this webinar will be really interesting once we get both the Pakistan and Iranian perspective. So let me, without really taking much time, let me straight away come to the first initial point, and we'll keep it more interactive, and I will request both Sania and Javad to keep their initial remarks to 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll go for another one, maybe after 3 rounds of so or 4 rounds, then we'll take some questions from the audience. As Luke has mentioned already, I think those who are interested to ask both of our speakers their questions, please type your questions in the chat box so that both the speakers can see it and share their perspectives. So just to start with you, Sania, and we have read you your articles and books on many interesting issues, particularly in pertaining to Pakistan and Pakistan-India relationship, including Kashmir issue. But here today we are talking about Pakistan-Iran tension, which is a completely another episode. But what is your initial remarks about these tensions that is that has happened between Iran and Pakistan lately? What has been the cause of these tensions? And in your view, has these tensions gone down? Is there a peace and stability we are seeing currently, or it's just a temporary halt to these tensions? So, in brief, if I could ask you just to start up this discussion, what is the current state of affairs between Pakistan and Iran lately, and why did that tensions happen, and why did Iran really launch that missile attack on Pakistan? So, can you share your point of view, both from Pakistan's point of view and more as a scholar and as a writer, scholar, and as an independent thinker? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Luke and Dr. Panda, for inviting me for this interesting discussion. And I will divide my discussion into the three parts. The first, I would like to give an overview of my audience about the Pakistan and Iran relationship. And in the second part, I will discuss about the tension. And in third part, I will talk about uh, what's the reaction from both side, and what's the purpose, and why Pakistan retaliates, and then what's the logic of the Iran behind this situation. So if we go to the history, so then we can say that like the region shared by Pakistan and Iran is witnessed the turbulence for the decades, with the internal and the external factors and contributing to the complex dynamics, but both countries bound by the historical ties and have faced the common challenges as the terrorism, separatism, and the social economic disparities. So if we look at in 1979, so the ties between Iran and Pakistan have been functional and in periods warms, but ultimately not particularly strong. And while Iran and Pakistan people to people exchange is the strengthen the relationship, and there have been the political grievances towards the other on both sides. But if we see like the Iran Shia's theocratic regime, for example, has felt the ideological discordant with the Sunni majority Pakistan. So the Pakistani leadership has also at times viewed the relationship through the sectarian lens, and through the salience of the sectarian rifts is much less acute compared to the Iran ties with the countries into the Persian Gulf region. So, as Pakistan, we know, has a sizable Shia majority, so Iran has also the negative perception of Pakistan due to its strong relations with the geopolitical forces opposed to the Iran, like the United States and the the Gulf powers. So, especially the United Arab Emirates and the Saudi Arabia. So, we can see that like the two nations historically aligned during the Cold War, but whose paths have since the divergence and the amidst regional conflicts and shifting alliances. So, the recent skirmishes underscored the fragility of the relationship, yet also highlighted an underlying desire to avoid the escalation. So, after the series of this tit for tat, a missile strike against the militant targets across their shared borders. So, Iran and Pakistan's now we can say like they agreed to de-escalate the tensions. But if we talk about the logic, the second part, like what's the logic of Iran behind these attacks? So we can say that like the first one is the Iran maybe will be seeking to the broaden the ongoing regional conflict and decided to draw Pakistan into the mix. So if this is the driving Iran, so we may say more Iranian action into the Pakistan after this tit for tat action. So the second logic can be behind that the Iran may be attending to force the regional countries, including the Pakistan, to rethink their pre-existing alignment with the United States and not offer further help that might allow the United States to counter the Iran and its proxies in the region. So, but if we talk about the Pakistan reaction of this state for that, we know the situation in Pakistan and the image of the army, and so to revive the image of Pakistan army in within the state is to revive the image, and also it can be the purpose of the retaliation. But we cannot forget one more important point. So the Iran Pakistan missile shutdown puts, you can say that it can be a diplomatic test between the Iran and Pakistan. So it's very important to understand the motive behind the Iran and Pakistan in that perspective. Like it can be the diplomatic test. So we can see that Tehran miscalculated the action, so shouldn't not only seen as the retaliation against the Jaish al-Adl, also aimed at the provoking a response from Pakistan. So instead, they should be seen to intend to demonstrate the Iranian military capability and send a message to the United States, Israel, and the Arab and the US allies, indicating the Iranian military prowess and the readiness to confront the external aggression. So, the Iranian ballistic missile strike in the Iran, Syria, and the Pakistan also highlight the Iran's ability to project the power beyond its border, and it could have the significant implication for the regional security. So the fact that Pakistan, we know, like it's the weak and the state is under this severe economic, political, security, social, and the institutional stress is precisely what made Pakistan desperate to retaliate, because to not do so uh, would mean like being taken for the complete pushover, not just by the Iran, but also by the regional players, especially India. So it was a matter of the strategic survival for Pakistan to respond not just to the diplomatically but also militarily. So uh, we can see all this. So where is the question, like this situation will continue, or the situation maybe Iran and the Pakistan, so maybe they will again do such sort of the strikes. So then my answer is no, because they both are not in that position to compromise on the strategic strategically on the situation. So, because Iran is eager to show the protecting its sovereignty, particularly in the region, so where the regime, the legitimacy has been under the threat. So, meanwhile, Pakistan retaliation to Iran tax has also helped to boost the image of its military. So I think so both sides are now the comfortable and the diplomatic relations has been restored. So this escalation risk is the very minor. So that's my understanding and the takeover on it. Thank you.
That is excellent overview. So there is an ethnic dimension to it, if I correctly understood your views. Culminating from the historical time, particularly from 1979 period, onwards, as you mentioned. So the ethnic aspect is one aspect why the tensions has been brewing. Second, I think, as you rightly mentioned, that probably there has been a lack of understanding and good trust. What has been a diplomatic test, which has been a test for diplomatic community on both sides. But you also optimistically concluded by saying that probably there has been a restoration of the relationship, even though it has not really come to a complete normalcy, but there has been a restoration to the tensions. So thank you very much for that initial remarks, but I'll come back to you with follow-up things. That what do you think how this conflict is going to really shape up the Eastern politics dynamics, the relationship with China, the relationship with India, and how do you really see the issues like the cross-border tensions, particularly pertaining to terrorism, are really going to be addressed by both the countries? When you are saying that there has been a diplomatic restorement of the relationship. So we'll come back to with some of these points maybe later on. So if I could go to you, Javad, how do you see from the Iranian point of view and from your own individual point of view as a scholar and as an analyst, how these tensions has been brewing, and what has been the moot point behind these tensions? Do you think there is a temporary halt, or do you think this tensions is going to fade away, given the greater interest that Iran and Pakistan hold in the in the larger Middle Eastern politics? If you could share your views in 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, and thank you very much. Greeting to all esteemed audiences and my colleague in this panel, Dr. Sonia Monir, and you, Dr. Panda, and Mr. Masioni. I would like to thank the Yokosuka Council on Asia-Pacific Studies and the Stockholm Centre for South Asia and Indo-Pacific Affairs for invitation to this program. First of all, let me start with some historical factors in relationship between Iran and Pakistan. The issue of Baluch sectarian has been one of the main cause of the differences between Iran and Pakistan in recent years. Iran and Pakistan have long accused each other that their territory is used for insurgent attacks. In the past 20 years, after the establishment of Jundullah organization and then Jaish al-Adl and Ansarul Furqan, and the establishment of this organization in Pakistan. Pakistan also believes that some separatist group are inside Iran. For instance, the Baluch Liberation Army, which was formed in 2000 and is considered one of the separatist group in Pakistan, has also carried out attack against Pakistan security forces on China's infrastructure project in Balochistan province. Therefore, one of the reasons for the recent attack by Iran, which is internal, was the growing insecurity caused by terrorist attack inside its territory. Iran wanted to show its authority against terrorist group and send a message to their supporters. The terrorist attack in Kerman, which killed more than 80 people, crossed Tehran red line and launched attacks against Iraq, Syria, and Pakistan. Before the Kerman attack, there was an attack on the Shah Cheragh shrine in Shiraz, which Iran announced that terrorists has entered Iran through Pakistan. Of course, while the tip of the arrow is against Pakistan, it should be noted that the terrorists were trained in Badakhshan, Afghanistan, which is under control of Taliban. Also, Jaish al-Adl used non-Iranian attackers in the recent attack, which bring them closer to Islamist jihadists. This is very important. The importance of international corridor following the changes in the global world order has also increased the geopolitical competition between Iran and Pakistan. Therefore, one of the main reasons for the recent developments is the importance of the transit route of Iran and Pakistan in the international world order. Iran's airstrike on Pakistan also followed the visit of Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar to Tehran. The timing of this attack could fuel Islamabad's long-standing narrative that India seeks to encircle Pakistan by deepening ties with neighboring countries and supporting Baluch insurgents. India and Iran are pursuing a deeper strategic partnership, and Jaishankar visit reaffirmed this. The trip was witnessed the progress of the Chabahar port project as a regional transit hub in competition with other projects in the region, including Pakistan Gwadar Port, with the China's funding. Gwadar Port, as you know, is very important in China's One Belt and Road Initiative. In contrast, Chabahar Port is important in connecting India to Central Asia and Russia through the North-South corridor. Chabahar can save India from geopolitical strangulation in connection with Central Asia. So Pakistan sees Chabahar Port as a symbol of India's growing influence in Iran. Pakistan is concerned about the strategic location of Chabahar Port, as India has managed to turn this port into a strategic asset against Pakistan. The issue of Afghanistan has also been one of the important issue of dispute between Iran and Pakistan in recent years. Despite Pakistan's support to the Afghan Taliban after Taliban came back to power, the relationship between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban has been strained due to the support of Afghan Taliban to the Tehrik Taliban Pakistan. Meanwhile, after years of strained relations with the Taliban, Iran has tried to establish a balanced relationship with the Taliban in order to reduce the influence of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia on this group, especially after the deadly Taliban attack on the Iranian consulate in Mazar Sharif in 1998. The warm relationship between Iran and the Afghan Taliban is one of the main reasons for the recent differences between Iran and Pakistan. And the convergence of Pakistan's foreign policy with Saudi Arabia, Iran's main rival in the region, is also worth mentioning on Iran and Pakistan relations. Pakistan is increasingly reliant on aid from Saudi Arabia and Riyadh. In turn, has asked Pakistan to participate in its regional security plan, particularly in its anti-Iranian initiative. Despite this, Pakistan did not effectively join the Saudi coalition against Yemen and considered the relationship with Iran. Pakistan alignment with the regional and anti-Iranian policy of some Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, has been one of the factors of the divergence between Iran and Pakistan. Thank you.
Javad, thank you very much. Those interesting comments. So I could draw two inferences from your initial remarks. One is that I think there are economic motivations. There are port connectivity corridors, which Iran wants to protect from external sources of threat or concerns, and that has been one of the reasons probably behind Iranian strike against some of the elements in Pakistan. Second, you mentioned about that how Pakistan has not really been collaborative towards some of the initiatives in the regions, including with the Saudi coalitions that you mentioned. So there has been a deficit of trust, if I could, make a point, between Pakistan and Iran, which has also propelled to this kind of a tensions and situation. But while saying that, my first counterpoint to you, Javad, would be that what do you think why Pakistan has not really embraced or decided not to really join the Saudi coalition? What is Pakistan's point of view that Iran has not really, taken into consideration or not welcomed it? So can you just throw on some lights on that, which will help us to understand the point that you were making? Why Pakistan, from your point of view or from Iranians' point of view, why Pakistan did not join in the Saudi coalition? What could be the reasons?
Oh, I think for Pakistan to try to follow some hedging strategy in recent years against Iran and other Arabs in the region, and for the reason we can see Pakistan didn't participate in the Saudi coalition against Yemen and did not take a side in Qatar crisis, and try to balance its relations with Iran and other Arabs, and doesn't want to hostilate its relation with Iran and its proxies, because with the increasing escalation with Iran, maybe Iran try to retaliate by sectarian card. And for this reason, Pakistan tried to balance its relation with Iran and try not to provoke Iran and proxies in the region.
Right, right. No, thank you very much. So if I could go for a second round, just to trying to understand the broader context of these tensions. One thing that probably both our audience and myself would be interested to know, that these Iran-Pakistan tensions, how has it affected the peace and security or stability in the Middle East, particularly given the fact that there is, already a ongoing tensions which is prevailing is between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Palestine. So how does that really add into the context? And second, when there is a war also in the backdrop between Russia and Ukraine. So, Sania, if you could share your understanding about that, where do you think the Iran-Pakistan tension adds to this regional complexities more? And what is your expectation? Do you think these tensions might really continue for some time between Iran and Pakistan, or it has completely died down? And what implications it will have on the Israel-Hamas or Israel-Palestine conflict? If you could throw some lights on this, and then Javad will follow up on the Iranian angle of it. Over to you, Sani.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you mentioned already, like tensions rises across the region. So if we look in between the Syria and Iraq war, because Iran says it struck Israeli spy bases in the northern Iraq as well as ISIL targets in Syria. So Israel has also continued to strike Iran-linked targets in Syria. If we have a look in the Lebanon, so the cross-border strike continue between the Israel and the Hezbollah. And if we talk about the Gaza, so from last like 100 days, so Israel has continued to the bomb and obstruct aid from reaching the Gaza. Then Red Sea, we can't ignore that. So and the Yemen, and then the tension between the Iran and the Pakistan. So the region is already facing the uncertainty with the challenges ranging from the Afghan and the Indian borders with Pakistan to Iraq, Yemen, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and when it comes to the Iran, in addition to the US sanctions. And we know that the engaging in other conflict with the neighboring Muslim state, so it cannot be a wise the diplomatic decision and does not serve the national interest of the either state, either it's the Iran or the Pakistan. So as I already mentioned, so it's not going to escalate. So as we know, like the last year, Pakistan applied for the membership in the BRICS. So and it's already a member of the global and regional organizations for the economic and the strategic interest. So therefore, it's the crucial for the both countries to prioritize the peace and the stability for the region. So, as you know, like Pakistan was under the sanctions of the Fatah, so Pakistan is also joining the hands to combat the terrorism in the region. So definitely, Pakistan is a joining hand, but such sort of strikes are not expected like in near future. So if we talk about the conflict, if the conflict escalate between the two states, so it could be harmful for the regional unity. And if we say for Iran, if the Pakistan retaliate, so it will also it will create a dilemma. So if Iran decides to escalate, it will open another front for itself, which is hardly sensible thing to do when it's deeply involved in widening arc of the conflict in the West Asia and the Israel-Palestine war. So on the other hand, if Iran backs down, it will send a message to the other players in the region that the way to contain Iran's expanding influence is not by targeting its proxies, by targeting it directly. So there is a lot of chatter that the stability in the Middle East will not possible without striking the head of snake. You can use the word Iran here, like and then, but not doing anything about Pakistan action deep inside Iran. It could end up by tempering the adversaries to launch attacks on Iran better if it from the starting trouble in the region through the parastate proxies. So what is more is the emboldened by the Iran, so backing down Pakistan-based Sunni terrorist group will be the more likely to attack Iran further. So, but if these tensions led to open the hostilities or even a hot border, then it will add an already messy situation in the Middle East. So, in my opinion, so this situation is not going to escalate. And then, if we talk about the Palestine and the Gaza war. So Pakistan has its own stance, which is linked with the Kashmir and about the acceptability of the Israel. So I think a region will face the more difficulties if the situation will escalate. So in my opinion, uh, stability will move further. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Javad, how do you think? Do you agree that the situation might not really escalate and peace and stability might prevail, or how do you think still there is a bit of a tension which might continue?
Yeah, I think the situation will be freeze between two countries, and the diplomatic channel between two countries after Pakistan retaliation showed us that two countries has their has their cost benefit analysis in this regard. From Iran side, the escalation may to worsen the economic situation in Iran, and on that time Iran was engaged in many front in the Middle East, and war with Israel, and opening new front with Pakistan was very bad choice for Iran's government, and could give some point positive point to Israel and the United States. Iran knows that escalation between Iran and Pakistan is in the favor of Israel and the United States, and especially the United States, because Pakistan relations with the United States is not good after the killing of Osama bin Laden, and and when the United States claimed that Pakistan is not a good partner for war against terrorism in the region, and Iran doesn't want to put Pakistan into side of United States and Israel, and doesn't want to open another front in the midst of Gaza war, and doesn't want to escalate, worsen its economic situation.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. And I think I do agree with both of you. But just one thing before because there are some comments are already coming from the chat box. You can have a look at it. But before we go for the comments, may I ask another brief questions? What do you think? I'll start with you, Jabad. How do you see that both China and India have reacted to the situation? Do you think China and India does not want this relationship the tension should persist, or they do not want the tension to really escalate, and there should be peace and stability. What are the common points and different points between the Chinese approach and Indian approach, in your opinion? And then I'll come to Sania. So Javad, can you share your thoughts about How do you see the Chinese approach on the whole conflict and Indian approach on the whole conflict?
Okay. China has close ties with Pakistan and Iran, so it is in a good position to mediate tensions if in escalation mode, as it helped facilitate the resumption of a diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia in 2023. For this reason, after Pakistan's retaliatory attack, China proposed to play a constructive role to reduce tension, and China's foreign minister spokesman Wang Wenbin called both Iran and Pakistan China-friendly countries, and asserting that China is committed to upholding regional and international peace and stability, while supporting Tehran and Islamabad in continuing to bridge differences through dialogue and consultation. That Islamabad and Tehran successfully and quickly found common ground and averted a war was a huge relief to Beijing, which has expressed concerns about the U.S. ability to exploit hostility between Pakistan and Iran. China's role in resolving or failing to address such conflict will affect its reputation as an emerging global leader. Its ability to manage and mediate in this conflict is carefully scrutinized as an indicator of its global influence and responsibility. In particular, Iran and Pakistan are two members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, whose primary goal is to fight terrorism in Central Asia and South Asia. Beijing, meanwhile, is concerned about instability near the border region for CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. China has invested heavily in developing Gwadar Port that is expected to become a key commercial hub. Balochistan is also the hub of an energy project under CPEC, with similar geopolitical attitude towards the United States. Beijing and Tehran have a mutual interest in accelerate the creation of a multipolar world. Iran have given up its relationship with the West and is now focused on strengthening its relation with China, Russia, and the countries of the global South, including Iran's close neighbors, under look to the East foreign policy. From Iran's point of view, China is a superior power, while the power of the United States is declining, and Iran's deep state sees its relation with Beijing as very vital for the future of the Islamic Republic. Growing insecurity in China's neighbor, Pakistan and Afghanistan, could also negatively affect the situation in Xinjiang or Xinjiang, making it more difficult to contain unrest and violence in the Muslim majority part of China. In favor of the BRI and CPEC chances for long-term success, Beijing considers security near the borders of Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan to be critical to China's economic and geopolitical interests. After the recent conflict, India called it an issue related to Iran and Pakistan, but considered Iran action understandable for criticizing Pakistan's performance regarding terrorism. Despite Islamabad's belief that India has security cooperation with Iran against Pakistan, especially regarding separatist group, India will suffer from insecurity in Iran's Sistan and Balochistan province. India can connect to Central Asia and Russia from Chabahar port and north-south corridor and bypass China. So we can see Chabahar is very important for India. The development of Chabahar ports by India can be an order for Pakistan Gwadar port also. And in addition, it can reduce Afghanistan's dependence on Gwadar port because Iran's route can actually lead to diversity in the routes of transporting goods to Afghanistan. And this issue can actually reduce the influence of the Haqqani network and Pakistan's security system in Afghanistan in long run and expand the influence of Iran and India in Afghanistan. The development of macro ports can reduce Afghanistan dependence on Pakistan and lead to the reduction of Pakistan influence in Afghanistan, which requires joint cooperation between Iran and India in macro ports and other issues related to Afghanistan. Insecurity in Chabahar can question the future of this project. Therefore, insecurity in Pakistan, Baluchistan province and Iran, Sistan and Baluchistan province is also harmful for both China and India. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you think, Sania?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jawad, for making it easy for me because you highlighted very important point, and I agree. So I would like to add further three factors, like how China's response towards this and the reasons. So first and the important one. China is concerned about the security and the safety of the state-owned Chinese companies and the Chinese workers inside Pakistan, especially in Balochistan province and the site of Iran strike. So Chinese companies are actively throughout the province as the part of the CPAC. They're working there, and the China uh, different working groups like for the copper gold mine project is the northwest corner of the Balochistan, and in the southwest of the Balochistan, companies such as the Chinese Overseas Ports Holding Company are the responsible for the Gwadar port and the free trade zone, and the other Chinese project in Balochistan, including the new Gwadar International Airport and the coal-fired power plant, to name but a few. So the safety of those companies and their Chinese workers is the paramount for the Chinese government, and the reason first the China's intervention. And the second factor is the Chinese mediation offer is the assertive shift seen in China's diplomacy, and it is based around the China's contribution to the global efforts to protect our shared home and to create better future of the prosperity for all, and the China's global order, which we all know. So this was the second reason, and the third reason, the factor is China mediation is the political vacuum in the region because the US influence in Afghanistan has plummeted after the withdrawal of the American forces and the subsequent takeover by the Taliban, and the US presence in the Middle East more broadly has been impacted by the Washington strategic decisions to focus on the completion with the Chinese. And this made it not only easier but the imperative for the China to step in and lead the diplomatic endeavors in the region to make the stability between the China's and Pakistan relations. So these are the three important factors, in my opinion, of the China's mediation. But if we have a look of the India's position, we know the Ministry of the External Affairs, so they give the only one press release, and the press release is about like they said "Okay, we will not be commenting on the Pakistan's Iran matter." So this statement follows the government recent affirmation of the zero tolerance policy towards the terrorism, no doubt. But on the other hand, we cannot forget the historical alignments between India and Pakistan, and the collaboration against the terrorism and the bilateral standstills with Pakistan. So India's engagement, bilateral relation engagement with the Pakistan is also the indicating towards the ending up the terrorism. So we can say that India is like the bit neutral on it, but the China is mediating very actively. So that's
Mm.
my take on that.
Mm. No, thank you. I think those are interesting remarks, and I think there is certainly a difference between the Chinese standpoint and Indian standpoint, the way they look at both the relationships between Iran and Pakistan. But with this note, let me open the floor for discussion. If anyone wants to ask a questions, they could pitch in. Maybe Sania can start. Maybe how do you see the Chinese view? Because China is a big economic investor there in the Middle East. Do you think the Chinese would like to see this relationship on, continuing somehow? And what would be the Chinese stake and economic stake in the regions? If you could comment on some of these issues, including how, one interesting thing also, which is coming to my mind, after hearing to Luke's comment, is that, if you see, interestingly, Pakistan also had a lot of political developments within the country. So what has been the Chinese approach to recent Chinese approach towards Pakistan? Given the fact that there has been a election where none of the political party really secured those kind of, majoritarian votes, or, secured that kind of confidence in the vote to form the government. Eventually, there has been a, legal battle about forming the government. Thankfully, there is a government now in Pakistan. But then the Chinese approach has been very interesting. The China wants that there has to be some kind of peace and stability, not only within Pakistan, but also Pakistan's relationship with Iran, given the economic stake and given the kind of connectivities, including the Belt and Road. So how do you see, Sania, the Chinese approach here? And if you could comment on some of the
Panda,
Duke's comments.
yeah, thank you. So I would like to draw your attention about the Chinese policy, for how the Chinese policy has been shifted from non-interference to the interference policy. Because if you know about the China's policy, so there was interfering into the matters of the countries. So, but like few years back, so their policy has been changed from non-interference to the interference policy. So number one point, so China is investing a lot of under the CPAC project. So China can't afford any sort of regional instability and the risk of the investment. It's not only in the case of the Iran, but also in the case of the India as well. And China's the most interesting uh, impact of this economic development is that the large population is in the India, the target population. But China can't take risk, not with the Iran and also with the India. So China is always try to mediate the regions of the CPAC stakeholders countries. So China is not making is not China will not push countries to further escalate and all this. But as far as I would also like to mention one point about uh, this escalation between the Pakistan and Iran. So this these strikes are all are, you can say, that is just like the posturing. Iran was the posturing as she was posturing in 1998. Otherwise there is no purpose of these strikes. And so Pakistan and Iran. So the both are now situation has been settled down, and the China is mediating in that and helping to reduce this escalation. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Jagannath, Dr. Panda, if you'd like to unmute. You were muted. I don't.
No, I was. Thank you very much for those comments. But I thought maybe Javad had something to share. So Javad, how do you see the Chinese involvement, the Chinese current policies, not only on this conflict, but also on some of the protecting its own interest on the economic ventures, particularly when it comes to the connectivity and investments in the regions, including the Chabahar port?
Yes, China for reviewing the China's perspective on this tension, we should consider the broad framework and the transitional world order. I think China want to be as a leader of global South and try to shape kind of world, kind of order in the region, and this region. China tried to influence in Persian Gulf countries like Iran, and want and for this reason, China have a strategic document 25 strategic document with Iran, and also is a strategic partner of Pakistan, and doesn't want to escalate and doesn't want to expand this tension into Persian Gulf region, and for this reason try to mediate the escalation, and China know by escalation with Iran and Pakistan, the only winner is the United States, and China want to show itself as a good partner both for Iran and Pakistan in the crisis situation. And as Dr. Monir pointed out, the economic aspect is also very important in this new order, and for example, Belt and Road Initiative, and Iran and Pakistan has a major role, and especially Pakistan, and also Iran is a major position, is a major country in Belt and Road Initiative for China. For this reason, yes, there are some economic factors and some political factors for China to mediate and to not take side in this tension.
You're muted as well, Dr. Panda, if you need to.
Okay. No, I was just saying those are interesting remarks, and thank you, Javed. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, maybe I'll ask a final questions if there are anything. I think there is one comment there. Javed, if I could just redraft that questions. I think we discussed about Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, where both, in fact, most of these countries, Pakistan, Iran and India, are a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization now. So it will be interesting to understand how the Central Asian countries looking at it, looking at the Iran-Pakistan conflict, because SCO eventually talks about peace and stability, and most of these Central Asian countries are a member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. So how do you see that the Central Asian countries has been affected? What has been their views? What is your talk about the views which is emerging from Central Asia, particularly from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan? Maybe if you could share some of your thoughts. Maybe you first, Javed.
Yeah, some views in Iran sees this tension as a conflict that the winner is Afghanistan and some Central Asia countries like Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, because insecurity in Chabahar not good choice for them for connecting to, for example, Persian Gulf, and by insecurity in Chabahar and Sistan and Baluchistan province, Iran will lose, and will lose this opportunity to connect Central Asia to India, and also to Persian Gulf region. And for this reason, so some in Iran believes that the main reason for this tension is for insecurity-sized Chabahar port and Sistan Baluchistan at the moment for insecurity-sized Iran route to connecting Central Asia to Persian Gulf. And there are some articles that after this tension, that after Iran and Pakistan, Pakistan talked about to reach Central Asia from Afghanistan, and will sign some agreement with Uzbekistan and Tajikistan to reaching out them through Afghanistan. And they believe that this show why some want to escalate the tension between Iran and Pakistan, and some views also believe that for this reason Pakistan is inactive in Baluchistan province, and did not give pressure on terrorist group to because insecurity in Sistan Baluchistan of Iran is good for Pakistan's government.
Thank you. Sania, anything to say?
Yeah, I would like to add one point. So Pakistan is already, in the struggle to making the better relation with the Central Asian countries, and also we are struggling. First, Pakistan right now in not in that position due to the economical situation and the political instability within the state. So I think so Pakistan is not making any Pakistan is trying to make the relations better. So it's not at that time to afford any sort of the escalation with the borders. And I think so the impact of the relations with the other countries, with the Central Asian countries, is not impacting on it. So this escalation will not continue. This is what I want to comment only.
Right. Thank you. So there is one more comment, final comment, if you allow me, Luke, to read through that. I think it's again on the same issue, that whether these tensions will persist, reoccur in the future, or given the kind of a complicated economic and political developments, or you don't really anticipate that it is going to reoccur again. If you could just, briefly in 1 minute share your final thoughts so that we could stop there. Maybe I'll start with Sania, with you. How do you think the tensions currently really situated with it? Do you think, international politics is very unpredictable, but given the recent diplomatic, efforts, at least there has been a temporary peace. But do you anticipate that the future of this relationship is still very, very much uncertain, and the tensions might reoccur, or you don't really anticipate? In 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute is in 1 minute I will conclude it. So this tension is not new. So in past, so the tensions was increasing. So almost like we can see such sort of the strike between the Iran and Pakistan. So it can be happened in the future, but for now the situation is freezed. And in the past, like from many years, we can see such sort of the strikes was going on.
So Javad, you have anything to say?
I think some some negative factor will be appeared. For example, the foreign policy of Gulf states, especially Saudi Arabia and Emirates, regarding Pakistan, I think will have a positive impact on Iran and Pakistan relationship in the future, because in the past, for example, one of the reasons for negative relation between Iran and Pakistan was Saudi Arabia factor, and after improvement relation between Saudi Arabia and Emirates with India, and by cooperation with India, for example, into I2U2 and IMEC corridor, they will be close to the United States plans in the region, with the centrality of the India, and for this reason we can see some changes in Saudi views toward Kashmir region, and for this reason, I think by in the transitional world order, and by focusing on economic issue, and by changing in foreign policies of Gulf state toward Pakistan and Iran, some negative factors will be appeared, and also both Iran and Pakistan knows that a sectarian card cannot work, and stability, not Iran and Pakistan, but also China and India also know that sectarian card cannot work, because they want security in Balochistan province in Pakistan, and Sistan and Balochistan security in Iran for their project. They also China and India invested in Gwadar and in Chabahar respectively, and so they all of partners know that this kind of game cannot work for development.
No, thank you very much. I think this has been a very useful discussion so far in terms of understanding the Iran-Pakistan tensions, and particularly how is it affecting the Middle East security and economic dynamics. But I hope we will have further discussion on such kind of issues, particularly as one of our participants has mentioned already. Middle East politics is very complex, and I think we need to have more discussion, because it is the bridge between Europe and Asia, and this is where we decided that we should be discussing about this topic, because this series is more about Europe and Asia, and without really discussing the Middle Eastern aspects, we cannot really establish the closer ties between Europe and Asia. So that was the motive, that we should have much more concrete discussion about some of the dynamic issues that are taking place in the Middle Eastern regions. In coming times, we'll be discussing more about, under this series, we'll be discussing more about Europe-Asia collaborations, particularly focusing on China's role, particularly trying to focus more on Gulf region, Indian Ocean regions, and also particularly focusing on EU-India relations, EU-Japan relations, EU-South Korea relations. And I think I would encourage all of our participants to keep following YCAP's event networks, and probably Luke has something more interesting to share about the forthcoming events, and probably we would expect to see you for our future events. Over to you, Luke, maybe.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you everyone for your participation again, and thank you to our panelists for this wonderful webinar. Without further ado, as Dr. Panda was saying, I'll just share a slide so you can see some of YCAP's upcoming webinars and events and things. Please feel free to kind of funnel out of the webinar, and we hope to see you again at future events.
Thank you, Luke, for that excellent arrangement, and thank you, Sania, thank you, Javad, for joining us,
Thank
and
you.
all those participants for joining for today's event. See you next time. Have a good day and good week ahead.